but the truth. If so, raise your right hand and say, so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Ms. Seme.
Thank you, Commissioners. Today we have Mr. Cele. He is going to be talking to his role as the Minister of Police and as National Commissioner and what he did to advance the cause of the TRC cases. I beg your indulgence, Chair and Commissioners, to allow him to provide the background of his upbringing. You will note from the affidavit that this background informs his role as a minister and how he discharged those obligations. So that becomes relevant, of course, within reasonable limits of that background. And then we will deal with the request that came to him to fund SABC members who were facing prosecution for gross human rights violation. Then he will explain his role. But, and that's how we are going to proceed with our
Yes.
evidence. Thank you. Mr. Cele, you have in front of you a statement that appears at page 2032 of that bundle. Is this your statement?
Yes, it's my statement.
You may face the commissioners when you respond. Is this your statement?
Starting from 2032. Yes, correct. That's my statement.
Yes. Do you still stand by everything that is contained in that statement?
Yes, I do.
Is there a correction that you would like to make, perhaps in relation to your role as the commissioner of the police on the dates?
Yes, Commissioners, if you go to page 2046, I think it's paragraph 40. I was a national commissioner from 2009 to 2011, not 2018 to 2024. I was a minister from 2018 to 2024. I think I would love to correct those dates.
Thank you, Mr. Can you take the commission through your journey? And commissioners, we are referring to page 2034, paragraph 5 of Mr. Cele's affidavit. If you can just read that into the record.
Thanks very much, Commissioners. Well, reading as verbatim is that to appreciate my approach to the previous rules relevant to the terms of reference of this commission, it is important that I place before this commission my background, the experience and political activism. These experiences will inform the backdrop against which I submit the commission ought to view and judge the evidence that follows.
Yes. Can you take us through your upbringing, how you were, where you were born, and how you came to be an activist?
Yes, I was born at a place called Mzumbe in Poshepston. That would be about 100 km south of Durban. I was born 22nd April 1952. But if you go to my official book, that would be my ID book, is written, I was born 22nd February 1952. What happened here, when we were arrested, when I was on Robben Island, we were given an opportunity to get the documents. So when it came back with this 22nd February. I told the officers there that it was a wrong date. They told me that prisoners have no choice. So I had to take that ID as it was provided to me. But my actual date is 22nd April, not 22nd February. But I lived with it. I regarded it as one of the scars of the apartheid on me, that I was given the date by force that was never mine. I told my mother got married. I'm told that she was 18 and gave birth to me when she was 19, and my mother lost her life when she was 20, and I'm told that I was 9 months old by then. I was schooled at Inala in Fairview and attended Mtwalume High School up until what was then called JC. That is short for Junior Certificate, which is now grade 10. I'm sure that the commissioners would know JC at the time. And then I could not pursue matric as my father had passed on after, I think when I was 17. After my father died, I wanted to finish matric and pursue my dream of being an attorney. I approached the railway manager where my father was working, requesting for funding from the bursary reserved for the children of rail workers. The railway manager who worked with my father informed me that he could not help me because, in his words, they could not provide the education assistance for black kids because there would be nobody to carry bags in the trains in that particular time. So he said it was a policy of the company not to give bursaries to black kids to pursue their education. After passing JC and having failed to secure funding to complete my matric, I worked at a hospital called Greenville Hospital at the Medical Laboratory Department as an assistant. An opportunity arose while I was in Greenville Hospital for me to receive training as a medical technician at Umtata Hospital. I seized that opportunity. Yet my burning desire to complete matric remained with me, having completed the training. I then worked at Mseleni Hospital, saved some money, and went back to school to finish my matric. Upon completing matric, I proceeded to Mbumbulu College Education and obtained a certificate in education, and I'm thus a teacher by profession.
Mr. Cele, did you teach anyway after obtaining the certificate?
Yes, I did teach. I taught to Mtwalume, where myself I studied. I taught to one school in Port Shepstone called Gwanobamba, and I taught to one school called Charles Sabelo at Mbumbulu. That was the last school that I taught at.
Which grades were you teaching?
I was teaching history and matriculants at that particular time, up to it would be grade 11 now. It would be grade 11, where I was teaching at Mbumbulu. That is the last school that I taught at, and apparently my profession stopped there because I had to go out of the window when I saw the guys coming through gate, and I knew that they were there to collect me. Those police who were there to come and arrest me. So that's how I stopped teaching.
At paragraph 10, you then move to Lamontville where everything begins.
You have to
Explain.
raise your voice, please.
At paragraph 10, you speak about the beginnings of your political activism when you moved to Lamontville. Can you explain that?
Yes, because I've lost all my parents, and then I moved to stay with my aunt in Lamontville, in the township south of Durban. There's a small township there. But this is a township that has been always very active politically, especially on the community struggles. That would be your bus fares, rents, and some organizations were formed there under the leadership of Msizi Dube, and with some of us who were young activists then, like Jabu Stole, Lechisa Zenodi, who has been a deputy speaker now. We joined those community struggles, like Joint Rent Action Committee was known as JORAC, and the Asnamali, which was an organization against the hiking of the rent. So one can simply say that my political tooth was cut mostly on the community struggles rather than the student struggles.
Can you talk about an incident when you went to Durban, to Cape Town rather, and you were listening to Dr. Alan Busak, who convinced you strongly to remain in the struggle, at paragraph 11?
Well, it was 93 when the UDF was formed. So we drove to Cape Town from Durban. It was a long trip, and I remember we had a lot of sandwiches in the bus that we made them ourselves. So we were part of the formation of the UDF 1983. I think it was August, where the leadership like Alan Busak, they were talking, and I think in the Bishop Tutu was part of that, Reverend Chikane, Reverend Kundu. Mostly it would be the people from the clergy that were leading that, and the people from the communities that were leading that. So from there, the activism grew up to all of us. But we realized that immediately after that, we were approached to join the underground structures of the African National Congress. We continued to work on the mass-based organization, but also we started to work underground. So I remember that my job and with my team was what was called as a propaganda. We're dealing with the graffiti where in the township, where we would write that Tambo is coming, Mkhonto is here, and all that. I meant that Mkhonto, that I would say Mkhonto is here and all. So one would be in the form of a propaganda machinery doing the underground work, while we were still activists of the United Democratic Front in that particular time.
And then you get arrested for the first time in 1984.
Yes, I was arrested and detained for the first time in 1984 and taken to the 14th floor of the Sierra Swart building. Today it's called Durban Central. There, a certain Colonel Botha, who became my nemesis throughout my political career, arrested me in the early hours around about 2 a.m. in Lamontville and took me to the 14th floor. There was a window, I remember very well, there was a window with a loose bars, thin bars, and then I was very thin, very thin at that particular time. He encouraged me. He went to these beta cars, and they were loose. He moved them away, and he said if I wanted to jump, I could jump from that 14th floor. I didn't want to jump, so I didn't jump. So, but he encouraged
You
me
wouldn't
to.
be here. If you jumped, you wouldn't be here.
Come again?
No.
If you
Look
had
this
jumped.
way. I'm saying, if you jumped, you wouldn't be here to give your evidence.
Well, Commissioner, no, maybe I would have survived. Maybe, but it was a 14th floor. I would have survived, maybe, I don't know. But I guess I would not have been here. So I didn't.
And then you encounter Colonel Botha again when you were released. At paragraph 13.
So from that arrest, I had many encounters, and the Botha was almost on my case. And also with a certain Colonel Hunter, whose speciality was swearing at isiZulu. So he would stand in front of us as thuke nje. He was specialized ngenhlamba nje, kuthuke ngoma wakho, kuthuke ngayo yonke into. When I was released, I realized that I was arrested with Praveen, and when I was released, that particular time I was working with people like Praveen, Professor Kuvatia, Zek Yakub, and Daya Pillay, who finally represent Daya Pillay. I think she's a judge now, and Zek Yakub was an SC at the time. They represented me at a later stage when I was arrested coming back from the exile after I've been trained as a guerrilla and arrested when I came back in the country.
Tell us about the passing away of Victoria Mxenge and what that did to you.
Victoria Mxenge was one of our leaders. Her and the other attorneys. She was an attorney representing the arrested leadership of UDF at the time. That would be Archie Kumete and them. And then this one day, if I'm not mistaken, it was the 1st August, when we were called that Victoria has been killed. So I was one of the people that came on the stairs of the door when it was really fresh. The blood was still wet when we came there to pick up the body of Victoria. Other people that came there was Praveen, I think Jerry was there, Kuvatia, and other activists like Jabu who came from Lamontville. And then it was quite a bad loss, the death of Victoria Mxenge, and dying almost in front of you when you came, when the body was still very, very hot. But one thing that Victoria did, because Umlazi was very much conservative when it comes to politics, very much conservative. Victoria turned it around, completely turned it around. That's how Umlazi got to be progressive and be in the struggle. I remember a week or two, you could not buy anything at Umlazi. There was no shop, there was nothing. Everything just gone bad. That was after the death of Victoria Mxenge, who we all, when we remember and look back, we say, that's a person who really organized and turned Umlazi around to be the home of the struggle.
I'm going to move you a bit away whilst on the subject of Victoria Mxenge. Victoria passes away. There is no investigation into her death. The TRC hearings happen. You become minister, you are part of the liberation movement, but you are now the ANC government with all the resources to investigate. You speak so passionately about her, but were there any steps taken to investigate who killed Victoria Mxenge?
It's not only Victoria that we're passionate about. There are too many people we lost on the way. There are too many people that we knew, and we lost on the way. I remember that about 3 houses from my house where I grew up in Lamontville, Mhlongo Road. There was one Pewa boy, Spo, who disappeared. Even today, we have no idea what happened to him. Yes, the question of investigation, I think the mandate was more on the Hawks. I was a national commissioner of the South African Police, but there was a wing that was dealing with the crimes against the state.
We will get them, Mr. Cele. I was just asking, just from a position of a personal level, that you knew Victoria Mxenge and you were moved by her death. One would have imagined that there would be a consistent and a consistent effort made later on to answer the question as to who killed her. Even the disappearance of those who you say disappeared, one would have imagined, from the perspective of a liberation movement, a comrade and activist, who later on gets an opportunity to lead in government, even if it isn't your responsibility one way or the other, but the influence and the power is there to ensure that at least the deaths of the heroes, at least in this case, Mr. Mxenge and others, are really investigated and prosecutions do follow. What's your comment on that?
Well, the edge of knowing how people like Victoria Mxenge and many others died, and who really ordered their murder, and those that disappeared, the edge is still there that it would have been good to know what happened to them, and it could have been then, it could be now, it could be the other time coming, if the truth can be found exactly. It would be an extra in understanding and give a little bit of comfort to understand what really happened to those people.
After Mrs. Mxenge's death, you say you were getting arrested daily. It's at paragraph 15 of your statement. Can you take us through those arrests and the danger and threat that you faced?
Well, after the death of Victoria, generally there was a turmoil. There was a turmoil in the country. I remember that there was some form of a state of emergency. But what was funny is that there was no state of emergency in KZN. We were told, or the theory was that state of emergency protects people. So if there is no state of emergency, you can arrest or kill them. So it was more dangerous to be out on the state of emergency. It would be better if you are inside. You are a little bit safe. So I was almost arrested almost every week. Every week I would be arrested and released. And the theory that came is that I was one of the candidates to be eliminated. And I was completely non-functional as an activist because I spend more time now hiding. So my commander, who was working on my matters underground, instructed me to leave the country. The word was sent with a contact in Lamontville that my commander is commanding that I must leave the country. And my commander was Jacob Zuma, who was based in Maputo in that particular time. So that's how I left the country. And I had a foster mother at the time, Mrs. Madlala, whom I went to say goodbye, not knowing if I will ever see her again. So I was moved from Durban, and I was taken to Soweto, where I stayed inside houses for 3 months. For 3 weeks, it was called a cooling off period before you can go and cross the border. I was taken to cross the border, and I crossed the border to Mbabane, and from Mbabane I was supposed to move to Maputo. And in Maputo, I was arrested by the border people there and taken to the police station at Istegi, where I was kept 27 days without bath, because there was a belief that if you bath, you run away. And so we were locked in a way. There were 2 of us with Mkhunu boy. So we were locked there for 27 days before then negotiations were made that we had to be flown. I think I flew from Mbabane to Maputo, where we were to be debriefed by the commander then. Commander was, as I've said, was Jacob Zuma and Sue Rapkin, who were commander of my unit.
And then you leave for Angola.
Well, I stayed short time in Maputo, where you get debriefed, and you are asked few questions, you are given choices of going to school, of getting trained and go back to the country. Well, most of us, we did see schools. Things that we did not have were guns. So wanted things that we did not have, which were the guns. So wanted to go and train. So I was taken to military camps in Angola, where I trained. I think I spent about 8 months in my training, in my military training, and then I went back to Lusaka in the place called Political Military Command, where the first time I met Tambo, though I did not speak to him, but it was just good to see that this is Tambo, and met other several people. We used to to do a lot of reading of Sechaba. There were a lot of articles written by somebody called ANC Kumalo. So when I was in Lusaka, they showed me ANC Kumalo. I said, but this is a white guy. This can't be, and that is Castrils. Castrils was ANC Kumalo. I said, but this can't be Kumalo. They said, yeah, this is Kumalo. It's the first time I met Kumalo, ANC Castrils in Lusaka. So one got brought in and better understanding and further political training when we were based there at PMC.
And you come back into the country in 1987.
As I've said, that the choice I had was to come back and continue in the country. So in late 87, I was dispatched back in the country, stationed a little bit in Swaziland, is Swatini now, before I departed in the country. Funny thing happened when I was about to cross the border. A person that was escorting me did not want me to get in the country. He told me that people that are supposed to fetch me have not arrived. And I didn't stay long in exile. I stayed, I think, 2.5 years or 2 years. And then I still had very understanding of the country and the terrain inside the country. And then he said he will take me back and will come the next day. Those people that were supposed to fetch me and take me to Durban, to my base, they would be there. I said to him, no. Having studied and knew things, I said, no. if I don't get in the country now, I'm going back to Maputo, and I'll explain to the command there that I could not come in, or I'm doing it myself. And then I did it myself. I came without his blessing. And I think I did well, because at a later stage, as I came in, I went to my base, not the base that was arranged. At the later stage, that guy who was supposed to take me in the country was a state witness in the case of Ibrahim. Ibrahim was kidnapped from Swaziland, and that guy was a state witness. So I realized that if I had waited for him and listened to him, something bad could have happened to me. Especially at a later stage, when Botha raised an issue when I was arrested in the country. Botha raised an issue that I did not come with the channels that they were expecting me to come through. How did I come back in the country? So I realized that I was being handed over by that guy who was bringing me in the country. Well, I don't know where that guy is now.
And then you come back from Maputo without your escorter at paragraph 20, where
Well, I found my way. I found my way. I just crossed there's quite a close border of Eswatini and Pongolo. Funny enough, I was at Pongolo last week, and I went past the area where I jumped coming back. And as I was there, as a South Africans like good shoes. I was wearing my ostrich shoe and a leather jacket. And it was a funny place to be in the ostrich shoe and leather jacket. And I realized that I was easily identifiable. So I couldn't stop to wait for a taxi. So I took a taxi to town of Pongolo so that I can move there. And the first breach I did was to ask how much was a taxi fare. That was the first breach. And the driver immediately asked, who is this one who doesn't know what is the fare here? Fortunately, but we discovered later that almost all taxi drivers there were working for the system. So they were watching everybody that they didn't know very well. Fortunately, one lady said, well, myself I didn't know because the taxi fares have just been raised. I said, yeah, it's because I know that the taxi fares have been raised. That's why I was asking. So I immediately took a lift on the things. That's how then they let me go. So from there...
Yes, just there you said the lady took a fancy to you, but you didn't tell us where did it all end.
Come again, Judge?
I say you say the lady took a fancy to you because maybe it's because of the shoes and the leather jacket, but you did not tell us she took a fancy to you.
Well, I wouldn't know. She didn't say anything about my shoes.
the jacket.
And the jacket. And myself, I didn't look much at her because I didn't want to be identified. Remember, by the time I left the country,
just by the bicycle.
By the time I left the country, I was an activist and my face was known. So I didn't want to be familiar with the people that's there. So I found my way. I had a little bit of money. No, it was not a little bit of money that was given to me. It was money. I had about 6,000 rands. This is 1987. So I took a taxi from Pongolo to Mkhuze. And I took a taxi from Mkhuze to Mbangeni. When I reached Mbangeni, because I could see other people wearing kind of things that I was wearing. So I was in a normal tax. These were special hires going to that place. So I took an ordinary tax, and then I went back to Durban to join my base and create what was my mission. Most of my mission was a propaganda machinery and the underground education of the structure. So I went back to Lamontville to create those structures.
When you come back at Lamontville, I'm now leading you to the part where you're going to discuss your refusal to fund the cost of prosecuting former security branch police. I want you to begin at paragraph 22, but taking it from paragraph 21 where you say, Kenneth Botha comes back to your house now and searches your house and you are arrested again and solitary confinement.
Well, I think I operated about 12 months in the country. And then I was arrested. At a place called Mkababa, and taken to one safe house at Tongat. There were Botha made a comment that just look how fat you have gone. I don't think I was fat, I think I was fit. I was quite big. In the camps, we used to eat a lot of Czechoslovakian milk and a lot of training, so we were quite big. So he was just jealous to say I was fat, I was fit. And he took me to the house, which was a safe house, I guess, because I have seen that house after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So he asked me if anybody has seen when I was collected, when I was arrested. Fortunately, one young police officer who arrested me is a person I knew in the township that grew in the hood there. So I knew when they arrested me. Well, there was a tendency that the black cops would arrest you and take you in, and the white cops will interrogate you. So because it was dangerous to correct you as a terrorist, so they sent those that.
Do we need all those details? Do we need all those details?
And
I thought the summary might.
yes, no, we are getting there, Commissioner.
Might do like, for instance, did Botha testify at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and so forth, and whether the General Cele was maybe a witness or gave evidence at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission because he saw the fresh blood and so forth, more towards our terms of reference.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
We read the statements, but it's more of interest maybe to the general public. But even the general must please assume that we did read his full statement. Yes. Can you proceed maybe towards that direction?
No, certainly, Commissioner. I accept.
Chair, if I may, please, if the Commissioner JP could speak louder, he's always asking other people to speak louder.
Okay,
I can't hear you.
if you can speak louder.
didn't hear you either. I think, Chair, we are of the same generation, so hearing is a bit of a problem, so if we could both speak louder. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Ms. Seme.
Thank you, Commissioners. I accept your point, Commissioner Homo. You will see we are coming towards the end of it. The aim really is to explain his approach, but we will move along. Perhaps to get to the stage where, at paragraph 26 of your affidavit.
No, that's fine.
Can you read that into the record?
But can I finish this one of the safe house? Because in the safe house, Porter asked if anybody did see that I was arrested. And I said yes. And they said that was a pity because the arresting team made a mistake. They were supposed to shoot and kill me. And that would have been good for me because I would have been buried in Lamontville as a hero. Now they will never know what happened to me. So fortunately or unfortunately, we did, when the Truth and Reconciliation discoveries were made, that's one house we went to, that safe house, and indeed one dead body of a student, medical student, was found in that house. So Porter was not joking when he said to me, I can't disappear without trace, because there we found one student that has disappeared without trace when the Truth and Reconciliation was doing its job. So I think I should have put that because it does link with the job of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
I appreciate, Mr. Cele, your affidavit, as the Commissioner said, is before the Commission, so all your historical experiences are documented and will be taken into account. Paragraph 26, can you read that into the record?
What has all of this to do with the terms of reference of this commission and my role as a former Minister of Police and National Commissioner? Below, I connect the dots beginning with my role as a Minister of Police and specifically with my refusal to fund the litigation cost of members of the security branch and SABC members like Colonel Porter who had committed gross human rights violation. I also deal with my responsibility as a Minister of Police in the investigation of the TRC. So firstly would be the Commissioner, and secondly would be the Minister.
Perhaps before you get to that, we will begin with the funding of the police, and then we will go to your position as the National Commissioner and as Minister of Police. I want you to place on record why you believe your history and where you come from influenced how you discharged your obligations generally as a Minister of Police, particularly with reference to how, when you now became a minister, or if even within the security cluster of KZN, you were working with the same people who had committed gross human rights violations against you, like Colonel Porter, when apartheid came to an end.
Well, indeed, before I was a National Commissioner in 2009, I was an MEC of Police and Transport in KZN. So that put me on a pedestal of working with the police from the very early in the dispensation of the new dispensation. And I was unfortunate that I work with a lot of the police now as an MSc and as in government, with the police that were there to pursue, harass, and humiliate and arrest some of us that were in that government, including myself. So I remember one guy, though I forget his name, he was given the responsibility of constructing and formulating what was called as the community policing forum, and he was coming from the special branch. So those structures, what was creating, they were further, rather than working for the community, they were working for the police. That's how he was making those structures to work for the police. So it was a pain continuing seeing those people working in this particular time, and yet we had to work for their comfort and make sure that they don't get to pay for the sins that they've committed.
Okay. So we're now getting into paragraph 27 of your affidavit. Can you read that into the record?
That would be 27.
Paragraph 27.
My position then continues to be this: at the SABC ought not to have extended monies to pay for the legal costs of lawyers who were in essence providing legal representation of members of SABC like Colonel Botha, who had tortured, kidnapped and killed innocent activists who were fighting for the liberation of this country. I did not wake up and become a minister of police. I had history before then, which I carried with me into this position. When I had to make decisions as a minister of police and issues came across my desk, I approached them with all my biographical experience insofar as police matters were concerned. I had painful history. I had lost comrades. Graves had been dug up with people we knew. There were missing persons that are still missing today, where we don't know what happened to them. I had seen exhumations of bodies of my friends and my comrades sitting in position indicating that they were buried alive. If I expand a little bit here, correctly or incorrectly, in me, I find it very much awkward that it did happen that we had to pay for the legal fees of the people that killed people, of the people that were running the system that was declared by the United Nations as a crime against humanity. And then those same people should then be protected through legal fees and legal lawyers by the very same people that they pursued and did not want them to see them. So in my mind, there was that, and it is still living with me. It is still with me that they were supposed to pay for themselves the crime they've committed pursuing the system that was declared as a crime against humanity. That was my mentality on this matter.
And this is while you were the Minister of Police.
You say, that's why I was a Minister of Police.
You had this attitude while you were the
Yes.
Minister of Police.
Yes, yes.
So you do understand, Mr. Cele, that there is that position that you have, obviously informed by your history. But there is also another side to this aspect, that the truth is important for victims and their families. So if these security branch police were prosecuted, the truth may have come out during the litigation process, which is also all that families and their victims want, is to know what happened to their loved ones. What's your response to that?
Well, indeed, commissioners, that should be so. As I've said, that there are people I personally know. One person I know very well is Matthew Koniwe. We work together with Matthew Koniwe to establish what is known today as the Teachers Union. So I was working with him. So it's not just a hearsay, it's not just his history to me, it's things that has touched me very closely. And indeed, it would be good and to know what happened to all these comrades and who ordered their murder and all that. My mentality and my understanding of this was not to stop that happening, but was to say they should not be carried by the very same people that they wanted to see them dead, eliminated, and not exist. They should do that from their own steam. They should pay for the sins that they've created. For me, it was too easy and too light and too soft for them to be given that opportunity to be paid for by the state by the people that they wanted to see them eliminated anyway.
But there was a court order ordering the payment of their fees. What did you do about that? Did you still refuse to pay the legal fees?
Perhaps to assist you, Mr. Cele, you may refer to paragraph 30 and paragraph 31 in answering the Commissioner's question, and you may read that into the record.
I'll read 30. However, I'm constrained to record that I struggled and still struggle to come to terms with the following. How could government be obligated to fund through taxpayers' money, including taxes paid by the very people that were victims, black people, the litigation cost of those who committed crimes against humanity, particularly against black people? This was my limitation then and remains my limitation to this day. If this limitation condemns me, I am willing to go back and serve for those and serve for my conscience of not agreeing with this thing happening as it is at the present moment. But I am aware that the courts had indeed ruled that SABC has an obligation to pay for the litigation cost of former security branch members. I am further aware of this rule of law, issues arising from the judgments of the courts insofar as litigation costs are concerned, obligating me to pay for these costs. Legally, and as far as the rule of law is concerned, I should have and ought to have to challenge the payment of legal costs. Indeed, I did. Later on, in line with the rule of law, agreed to pay to payment of these litigation costs. I attached here too a newspaper article detailing my reluctant position on what the article terms as somersault as annexure. So this is, as I explained, Commissioner, this is in me, but there is this court. Maybe again here, the people that take decision, South African police, people that take decision mostly when it comes to operations would be commissioners, national commissioners than the ministers. And then finally, one would have signed with all reluctance that is there, with all my feelings, with all my block mentality, how this happens. If the law says so, one would have still signed. So finally, against that conscience, but the law would have been respected.
But initially, you refused to pay for the legal fees, particularly in the trial of the, well, particularly in the case where the COSAS 4 families were looking for justice. How do you explain?
Can you come again on that?
Okay, let me take it slowly. You've given us an article in your affidavit referring to the prosecution of members of the police of the former security branch who were responsible for the murders of the COSAS 4. There had been an order obliging SABC to pay for the legal fees to represent the accused in that matter. They were being pursued by the NPA and the families of the COSAS 4. Initially, you refused to pay those fees. Now, I understand your biological reasons, but you were Minister of Police. What did you do to comply with the court order that those legal fees are paid?
As I've said, these cases were dealt by the Hawks, the DPCI, which is specializing on the crimes against state, as these cases were determined as such. And then I would work with the head of Hawks, which happened to be Dr. Libya, General Libya. And if you look at those that were paid, was a very high kind of money that was paid for the few of them, I think it's Dr. Pasol and them. But I know that with all that reluctance, finally, the operations that were done by the head of Hawks and the Hawks would have been then finally paid. And I guess that the commissioner then would bring those things to me. So as those things were brought to me, it would be against me, but the law would have said so. So I think that's why some of those cases did continue, because at the end of the day, I guess some of them were paid for.
But initially you refused to pay those
Yes.
legal fees. Thank you.
Can we go to paragraph?
But I refused legally because I took the matter to court. I appealed on the matter and all that. So though I refused, but I wanted to remain within the law, my refusal and all that kind of stuff. Yes.
You didn't pursue those appeals.
I think at the end of the day, when the head of Hawks come to me, as I've said, Commissioner, I paid with all reluctance, so I signed those, I guess, those things to say we can continue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to take you to paragraph 33 and 34, just to round this part of your evidence. If you can read those paragraphs into the record.
The state did not contemplate what the impact of the experiences of those who were part of the liberation movement and were grossly abused, therefore, would have on implementing the TRC recommendations and facilitating prosecutions by further protecting and benefiting the perpetrators. I have detailed my background and experiences not as an excuse or justification for my actions, but rather as a context against which my position must be evaluated. The positions taken are more nuanced than a simple black and white answer to the question posed by the terms of the reference. So I, with all what has happened, but I don't want that to get lost, that sometimes we feel the apartheid perpetrators, things were good for them then and are still good for them now. So there is that.
So in paragraph 35, you accept that your actions had consequences. Perhaps you want to read that
That is
into
what
the
I want.
record.
That is what I was going to ask the
I accept that as a result of position I adopted, there are members of the security branch who never faced prosecution, and that affected members of the families appearing before the commission and beyond. I also acknowledge the pleas from the Legal Resources Center, the Foundation for Human Rights, and others whose voices were not brought to my attention as a Minister of Police. However, right or wrongly, I struggle with how and why democratic South Africa expects me to pay for the crimes Colonel Botha committed against me and my comrades.
Can we then take you through to your position as a Minister of Police? What did you do as a Minister of Police in your capacity to investigate, to ensure that there is an investigation of TRC cases, given the constitutional mandate of the police to investigate crimes?
We go to 36.
36 years.
As indicated above, I was a Minister of Police from February 2018 to June 2024. As an executive head of the police, there is a separation between myself and the executive member of the operational aspects relating to the police members who act under the command of the provincial commissioners and untimely the national commissioner.
Ultimately, no, you see, untimely, I say, and ultimately, the Commissioner of Police.
Did I say untimely?
I may
It's ultimately.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So provincial commissioners and all that, ultimately, the supreme of them will be a national commissioner. So as a national minister, I have raised this on the earlier point. The minister cannot tell the national commissioner who and what to investigate. The Constitution and the Police Act would give me the power to develop the policy and direction. And they will say to the national commissioner, create the structures and command those structures on day-to-day basis. So you stay afar from knowing who is being investigated, who should be investigated. I just imagine when the ministers are beginning to say investigate so and so and so and so. So, but now and again, the national commissioner or any other mandated by the national commissioner could come and brief the minister of what is going on that matter.
Just on that point, when you were a Minister of Police and you were developing this policy direction, did the TRC cases feature at all in your policy direction as a Minister of the Police?
Well, the policy commissioners would not be specific on the specific areas. The policy would develop the investigation, will show the investigation of the crimes that have been committed without specifically saying investigate cash heist, investigate murders. So it will be the crime. And then develop that as a policy, which started from the white paper, as you develop that, then it will, out of the policy, the law, Police Act will instruct the commissioner to create the structures then to pursue those individual units, those individual channels. So that's why you'll create a special unit to deal with the cash heist. We'll create the special unit to deal with the murders. We'll create a special unit to deal with the GPV and all that. But this one also did not fall direct under the commissioner. It still fell under the head of Hawks that had a little bit of independence. So Libya then would have been responsible, after he has been appointed, would have been responsible to specifically deal with these matters, even outside the mandate of the commissioner, of the general commissioner of the police. But it would have been given to the head of Hawks as a special unit to deal with such things.
But the police operating within the DPCI would still be members of the South African Police Service. Can you explain that?
Yes, they are members of the South African Police, but they report direct. They report direct to the head of the Hawks. One major problem that Hawks faced, that was a reality, is that until I left the police, Hawks were always operating almost on the 50 plus capacity. They were never in the full capacity to operate there. So they will request and take the police and recruit from the South African police. And immediately they come here, then they'll report to the head of Hawks rather than the National Commissioner. There is this problem of a multi-crossing within the law enforcement agencies. That would be, well, there is IDEC now, there is IPID, there is Hawks, there are police. All these, they don't train their own people. Most of them, including the IPID, they come from the police, including the IDEC, they come from the police and other structures of police like crime intelligence and IPID to IDEC. So that makes sometimes have what you will call the turf wars. People that will leave from police because they are angry and they go to the IPID. And sometimes they go extra mile as a revenge and avenge instead of dealing with the job. So it would have been good if every other structure would develop their own people from the very word go, to know that Hawks will get their people, go and train them. IDEC, go their people and go and train them. Because it leaves some kind of a bitter taste when maybe you had a problem with a particular structure. Let's say we have a problem with the police. Now we must go to IPID. And IPID, their job is to look after the police. You might go an extra mile because you are still angry rather than doing the job. So I think that's part of the things that maybe when it's recommended, it would be really good that all other law enforcement agencies, they develop their own people rather than having this cross kind of people.
Minister, were you aware that the TRC report recommended that those who had been refused amnesty, using one set as an example, that the state ought to follow a bold prosecution policy? Were you aware that there were many cases arising from the TRC report that required investigation first before the prosecutions could follow?
Yes, I was aware that there was an investigation to be made by the police. But investigations, as I've said, don't come to the minister. The minister should not even know about who investigates who. So the investigation will go straight to the operators. So on this case, it would be the head of the Hawks. I could not know, but it's not my job to know who is being investigated and not investigated. It's the National Commissioner and the head of the Hawks. I might know, but when it comes to operations per se, it could not be me running that.
Mr.
Can I
Ted-
just come in there, General? As Minister of Police, you would sign off on the annual report prepared by the DPCI. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So, in other words, you would know what's happening at the DPCI.
Is exactly what I said to the judge, to say, yes, I would know that there are cases to be investigated, but I would not know who is investigated by who. I would know that there were investigations, and the head of TCPI would say, we have investigated these cases, so many people have arrested, but would not sit in front of me and give me head by head investigation, who is supposed to be investigated. No, that is not for the minister. That what would be really political interference if the minister can go to those details. But the overall report from the Hawks would be brought. This is the job we have done. We have investigated these cases. We have investigated the cases, one case, the other type, like cash heist, that falls under their mandate and all that. We have investigated. But giving you details that we investigated Peggy Cele and we found him guilty, that would not be the purview of the minister.
May I take you to paragraph 37 and ask you to read that into the record? In fact, begin at paragraph 36.
I think I've read 36.
You've read 36?
Yes.
Okay. As the executive head of the police, there's a separation between yourself as the executive member and the operational aspects relating to police members. And
So what's
paragraph
what-
37, go to paragraph
Okay.
37, sorry.
What I accept firmly is that the police are charged with investigation of all crimes within the Republic of South Africa. This is an obligation flowing from Section 204 of the Constitution and is given effect to by the South African Police Service Act. The various regulations, policies, directives, and practice manuals regulating the functions of the South African Police Service. It is this regulatory framework in its entirety that must be considered when examining the investigative role of the police relating to the investigation of the TRC cases. Explain exactly that minister cannot wake up in the morning and call the National Commission on the head to say, who are you investigating today? Can you go investigate so and so? No, that goes straight. Even if, let's say, the information comes to me to say there is something that happened, I immediately pass that to the National Commissioner or the head of all. But I can't say, go investigate so and so.
So, am I understanding you correctly? During your time as Minister of Police, you took no action in respect of the investigation of the TRC cases. You formed no policies, you took no action, you were unaware of the investigation of these cases and whether they were happening at all. Do I understand you correctly?
No, I would not say I took no action. For instance, if the head of Hawks would will bring the information, I would not say no to the head of Hawks. But at the same time, I would not say, you go investigate. I believe that there were cases that were investigated by the head of Hawks. By then, which I would not have said no. So taking action, maybe if it financial matters and all that, the accounting officer at the end of the day of the police is a national commissioner, even for the Hawks. When it comes to finances, they will sign that with a national commissioner, though there is that independence and all that. So I could not have said to the head of Hawks and the nation, don't investigate that. So as I was aware that there are those cases, and I'm aware that there were cases that the head of Hawks continued to investigate.
Yes. Mr. Cele, if there were
Yes, Chair.
complaints regarding the investigations surrounding TRC cases, who would bring those complaints to you?
It could be the members of the community, could be the families, could be any other South Africans that feels that way, that it's got the complaint. But as I've just explained, once the complaint is brought to me, mine is to hand over to the people that have a legal right to pursue those things. And I can't even tell them that you go investigate that. I'll say there is this information, and then I give that information to the police. It could not be only that. There are many other, Chair, things that would come. I'll receive the call to say there is something happening there. I can't just say, most of the time I'll speak to the provincial commissioner to say, this is information that I've received. Can you check on it? And then the provincial commissioner will look and sometimes will come back and report to say, indeed, that was a correct information. But I can't say there is it, you go there and investigate, but I can hand over the information. Anybody can raise the issue with me, and it's up to me who do I think is relevant. My most relevant outpost will be National Commissioner and the head of Hawks, because it's not my job to run around instructing police. I can speak to the provincial commissioners, but I can't go to the police station and tell the police what to do and not what to do.
Yes.
Mr. Cele, during your tenure as the Minister of Police, did you receive any complaints from the DPCI or members of the public about the shortage of investigations or of investigators in relation to TRC cases?
Though I can't remember the specifics, but I wouldn't say no, I didn't. As that, fortunately or unfortunately, I fall in the same category myself, that I would complain. That I in my head, there is this picture I have of that young Pewa boy who's my next door, whom I know very well, was younger than me and all that. I was told when I came out of prison that he went to exile and disappeared, nobody. I would love to know one day what happened on that boy. But that there are people would talk, and many of us would love to know, and people will raise it. As I've said, that the structures then that are meant for that, created by the legislative framework to do it, which is the police to investigate, they would have to do that.
But I'm just asking a specific point, and I'm asking because there is a refraining complaint that the PCLU, initially who were investigating and charged with investigating and prosecuting TRC cases, complained that they did not have enough investigators. So the police did not provide investigators to the units that were mandated to investigate and prosecute TRC cases. So I want to know that during your tenure, were such complaints brought to your attention by the head of the DPCI, because you operated at that time when the legislation had changed and the Hawks were now the investigators of priority crimes, and TRC cases are priority crimes. So did you ever receive a complaint from within the police structures that there are not enough investigators to assist with TRC cases?
Commissioners, I have made the point that says DPCI Hawks, they operated much under their capacity. At one time, there would be 50%. That information, commissioners, would come as a generic complaint of their investigation capacity, rather than to say, we can't investigate this one, the TRC, we can't investigate the cash heist, we can't investigate the fraud and all that. But I know, as I'm seated here, and I still believe that it is still so, that the capacity has not reached the level where the head of folks will say, I'm comfortable with the capacity I have. But that capacity would not have complained with specifics that we can investigate. It was a capacity across the investigations and the generic investigations of the Hawks.
And then what steps did you take as a member of the executive to ensure that that the police service is adequately resourced in order to deal with cases in general, but specifically TRC cases?
Well, again, my efforts as an executive member would be across the board rather than specific, that Hawks, would be across the board. I hope, Commissioner Justice Home, I'm not going all over. There was a time, 2010, there were 195,000 members of the South African police. And there were 50 million South Africans. When I came back in 2010, there were 185 with 60 million South Africans. So you could see internationally, I think internationally is supposed to be, for proper policing, it should be 1 to 222. But when I came back in South Africa, it was 1 to 400. So this is generic under capacity of the South African police. So which means all other units there will be under capacity.
Sorry, you say 185, not
1,000.
185,000. Yes.
Yes. Okay. 185,000. So which means all units will be under capacity. Hence, at a certain given point, I went to the Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, may his soul rest in peace. And I said, can we please work on this thing of this reduction of the South African police? And he said, if it is so, health is complaining, education is complaining, it will behave across the board. But at a certain, I pursued it in the cabinet to such an extent that at a certain given point, the cabinet did agree with the president to say, I can't remember the years, that we'll try to increase the capacity of the police in 10,000 per training. All the time when you train the South African police service a year, it would be 5,000. But we put 30 that we train 10, 10, 10. All other units, whether it's a crime intelligence, whether it's a Hawks themselves, they go and recruit from those students. So as you increase that base, which means you are increasing the capacity of all other units. to answer the question that is asked, yes, I try to put a lot of effort to increase the capacity of the South African police at all levels, including the Hawks, so that they can investigate those cases that are mandated to do.
Were your efforts successful?
I don't think, Chair, at the level that one would have. Like, you know, as you put this 30,000, I remember one day, every month I was signing about exit of 100. At one time I was signing 302 1 month of police that were exiting the system. I called them and said, this house is burning, what's the story here? As you were putting these young ones there, there is a huge exit in the top level, which further weakens the capacity, because that is an experience that is living. So successful, I would say no. But efforts done, yes. We need to pursue those. We need to pursue those efforts until we reach the element where we believe that the capacity has been built, commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Cele. Can we now move to your position as National Commissioner of the South African Police Service? Now you are now operational, and that's where you made your correction at paragraph 40. What was your contribution to the TRC cases?
Paragraph
40.
Well, I started being a national commissioner before I was a minister. I was appointed 2009 and until 2011. At that time, again, I don't think much attention was brought to me about the TRC cases. I'm sure the head of Hawks then was General Dramat. General Dramat who was the head of Hawks then. I'm sure if there are cases that would be, then would have directly sent to him. I must admit on this one that my coming to contact with these cases of truth and reconciliation came to me more as a minister rather than as a national commissioner.
Why was that? Because now you were responsible for operational matters. Are you saying you didn't know about the TRC cases while you were national commissioner?
Commissioners, when I became a national commissioner, we had a very focused project. That was 2010 World Cup. I'm sure many other things, I admit, would have maybe taken a little bit of a backseat because we had to make this 2010 happen. And there was a big issue of 2010 can't come to South Africa because we were paradise of crime. So the world did not know. Again, commissioners, South African police saved the World Cup. Maybe that is not a big good story that is spoken about South African police. Saved the World Cup when in March, it was supposed to start on the 9th of June, when in March, the president of SAFA called on the national commissioner who was in East London launching the TRT to immediately come to OR airport, where I found the secretary, Mr. Valk, who was in tears because the World Cup was going either to Australia or to Germany. And then National Commissioner had to put the team of generals, there were 13 of them, to go to Zurich in the headquarters of FIFA to say, bring the World Cup, it will be safe. That is a trip that saved the World Cup coming to South Africa. Unfortunately, not too many people know that good story of the South African police. So,
And what about the stories of the families who were waiting for justice arising from the report of the TRC?
commissioners, no other operation that was stopped. No other operation that was stopped. But I'm simply saying to the commissioners, South Africa and the world had this focus that had to be dealt with in that particular time. But it can't be that all other units, for instance, I remember very well that we were still very much up with the cash heist, with the GPV and all others. So maybe at that particular time, the head of Hawks can give us a better understanding what was their take when it comes to that. But there was never a time when any form of cases of any unit was stopped because it was 2010.
But you say in your statement that there was this focus and obviously diminished capacity if all the generals are flying to Zurich and they are flying to, or flying all over the world, trying to convince the world that the World Cup must come to South Africa. So they are these competing interests, and in a way, TRC cases are not receiving as much focus as they would had there been no World Cup.
No, I would not say so that it diminished the focus on other units, including this. By the way, even then, Hawks had their particular capacity. Even then, it was almost having this independence under General Dramat. So they would have continued with the cases that are for the investigation by the Hawks. But again, I would be lying if I say there was no extra focus to the World Cup in that particular time, but which does not mean that all other activities of the South African police, according to the unit, were stopped.
Okay.
Mr. Cele, in paragraph 41 of your affidavit, you say that you take responsibility for the delays that occurred during that period. Do I understand you correctly that you take responsibility for not having attended to TRC cases because of the World Cup?
Not specifically for it would be part of it. I take a responsibility.
It would be part of it.
Yes. But it was a generic kind of work of the police, even in that particular. As a national commissioner, it would be folly for me to say I was not responsible for the functioning in full capacity of all units. But this functioning of the capacity of all units is based on the resources that are given. And the Minister of Police will take what he gets when it comes to budget. Otherwise, it would have been nice to say, this is the amount I want, and then you get. But I would really be, it would be folly and foolish of me to say National Police, National Commissioner cannot take the responsibility of the undercapacity of the resources of that particular time at the level of operations.
So during the period 2009 to 2011, when you were National Police Commissioner, as I read your paragraph 41, you accept that there were delays in the investigations of the TRC cases. Am I reading that correctly?
Can I read it?
Yes, please.
I take responsibility for the delays that occurred during that period. However, as I detailed hereunder, in my capacity of a commissioner, there were several matters that required my attention and to which police resources had to be deployed during that period.
So I'm trying to understand what responsibility and what delays are you accepting?
You see, one other, maybe specifically when it comes to this one, the capacity of the Hawks has been always a question. There was no time when it was full. Hence, when I came as a minister and we appointed General Libya and tried to work hard in the increase of that capacity, including the capacity of Hawks. But the responsibility for me is a functionality of the police vis-a-vis the shortage of resources, which shortage of resources is not the make of the National Commissioner, is a make of the cabinet, where the decisions of budget are taken.
So what delays are you taking responsibility for in your paragraph 41?
Perhaps to guide you, to remind you of the context of the operations of the police around 2010, including threats coming from Al-Qaeda and others, and what that meant for the Hawks and all the other divisions.
Well, Chairperson, as I've said, that police saved 2010. Maybe it's not all the stories that happened during that time that one can tell. I agree that there would have been, while all other units were doing their job, there would have been a concentration of resources to the project that was a national project that was there. As you would take these commissioners on there. But also, there were other threats besides the withdrawal. I remember that there was a statement issued by Al-Qaeda from Tunis that they would be very happy to see the bodies of Americans and British all upside down as the World Cup was continuing. And there was a match of America and England that was playing in Northwest. So you would, as a national commissioner, look that you maximize your efforts and your resources to be really the part of that statement is not realized. So it would be the issues, others in a subtle way, that the resources would be moved towards that 2010. But I want to emphasize, at no stage that the units were stopped to do their work. They might not have had the luxury of getting more money, concentrating and focusing to the 2010 like all other units.
Yes, but you do accept that there were repercussions for other cases as you were dealing with World Cup matters.
Well, the repercussions are there and are still there for the very fact that resources are not enough, Chairperson. Repercussions are still there. There is a...
But
Is
Mr.
that a
Tlele, sorry just to come in. Just on this aspect of TRC cases only. So, I mean, there are other issues, we admit. But if we take them as an example of the general, that when your resources are focused on a particular project, and it would be 2010 and it would go beyond, but you're coming in 2009, and 2010 is just an effort that you are leading up to host this World Cup that does become a success. As you do that, you must accept that when you pull resources away to focus on a particular project, surely the other units will function, but they won't function at the capacity that they ought to be functioning in. And the consequence of that would be that there would be delays, which is what you are talking about in paragraph 41.
Specifically, delays in the investigation of the TRC cases.
In principle, I agree with that.
Yes.
In principle, I agree with that. But in details, I would not know what was going on with the head of Hawks that was there at the time. Look, there is no instruction, no attempt to say, you stop your operations in your particular unit because we are busy with the 2010. Maybe the resources, which, by the way, I must agree, there were extra resources that were put for 2010, no doubt. There were extra resources that were put from the treasurer and in that particular time, but went there. So let's say if those resources were put, and they should have been put across the units, that would have increased capacity that time. But I do want to make this point, that nobody has said to any unit, whether it's an organized crime with the cash heist, whether it's FCS with the GPV, whether with the drugs and everything, whether with the kidnapping, who said, you slow down at your work because you are busy with the 2010. All units had to work maybe on the normal, not increased capacity as it would have been done with the preparation of 2010.
Thank you. We've come to the conclusion, but before we get to that, I just want to deal with one aspect. The investigation of crime, you accept, is the obligation of the police, South African Police Service. And TRC cases are also crimes. So to the extent that there is evidence before this commission that there wasn't enough capacity to investigate, it is the police who should have provided at all times the capacity to investigate TRC cases. No other, in other words, no other arm of the state or department of the state has the obligation to investigate crimes in the Republic of South Africa.
No, I would not entirely agree with that.
Okay.
I guess if you can say head of Hawks, head of organized crime, head of intelligence, give us your needs for your full capacity. Life can be easy. I don't remember at any given time where you would make the suggestion of this money to the cabinet and to the treasurer and get that money. For me, then it would be very much unfair for the police alone to face the consequences of the capacity of resources. It will be. Because resources, police, they take what is given to them, not what they want, not what they need. What is given. Budget, I remember I would complain, there is a combat, is a committee that deals with budget before it is announced. I used to complain to say there is not even a single security minister that sits in that body to ourselves to go and argue then on that. So, hence now and again, even this 30, this 10, I would always be very much thankful to the present Minister of Finance, Treasurer, who is one minister that has been a little bit sympathetic when it comes to the police issues and finances. So the non-resourcing and the incapacity of the police to do the work cannot be only put on their door. It also goes with the entire availability of the resources that are channeled to the police to work on it. I know we're talking about this and these cases, but there are many other cases that they cannot get favor because of the non-capacity that exists across the police.
So who then should take responsibility? This commission has heard over a substantial number of months now evidence of a failure to investigate, even decades later. Who, in your view, should take responsibility for that?
Chair, I think it will be across the government when it comes to the budgeting issues for me. Yes, police would have done one particular thing. I've raised this thing time and again, that at the present moment, I don't think, I'm not there now, I don't think that Hawks operate more than 60% capacity. That is not their making. That is not their making. It's the making of resources, of employing those people, teaching them, buying machinery, buying equipment, and all that kind of stuff. And is a highly specialized and sophisticated area of policing. You just don't need an ordinary police when it comes to work. You need forensics, you need accountants, you need people that they go there and know their job. They don't come cheap, those people. So for me, even these cases are not easy cases to investigate. These are difficult cases that they need a top-notch kind of skills. And top-notch kind of skills don't come cheap. And that money does not come from the police per se. It comes across the government.
So you're saying the state should take responsibility?
If you ask me, I will reluctantly say so.
Commissioners, Chair, may I kindly request a break? And then we can continue after lunch,
Yes,
kindly.
yes. We'll take a lunch adjournment until 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, Ms. Seme.
Good afternoon, Chair. and
Yes, you
Commissioners.
may proceed.
Mr. Cele, I have two issues that I will canvass with you. I would like us to tie up that loose end around the responsibility for the investigation of TRC cases, the issues around the budget, and how the police have always been under-resourced.
Yeah, no, thanks, commissioners. If you remember, I was asked if I put blame to government. I said reluctantly so. Because sitting in the government as a cabinet minister, while you are given an opportunity to work on your lane, you have an opportunity of having the iPad view eye on the issues. South Africa has issues, big issues. Starting, most of them stemming from the history. If you look at education, so much money spent, even now, for our kids to be at school. That NSFAS matter, I just imagine how many those that would not have gone to school if there was no NSFAS. The responsibility of government. So there were some of us who were killed by not having money to go to hospital. You could not go if you don't have money. So that's the responsibility of government. South Africa, minimal as it could be, but finding some grants for South Africans to have some little bit of a slice of bread or not. So while you are given the responsibility that you are an executive of this particular, but you listen to other colleagues putting and you look at things, you say that really the responsibility is quite huge. So hence the reluctantly, because I have a helicopter eye view on the matter. But that does not mean that as a human being you were not there. Indeed, as a human being, we can always maximize the effort. So even if it's not financial and otherwise, but morally, for the fact that you are given the opportunity to lead, it's because people would expect. So mine would be to say, you do the best of your capabilities, and for that, it would be falling to say, I'm clean, I have no responsibility and all that, but not saying that because one went to sleep when was given the responsibility. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cele. Commissioners, there is one issue that I don't think it's in the bundle, but it is in the Palata bundle at page 1003. Pagination on top is 67. If I can just be reminded of the bundle number of the affidavit of Mr. Koza. We will revert to the commissioners with the bundle numbers so that you are able to cross-reference when we deal with this issue, and that the record reflects accurately where in the record. Mr. Cele was mentioned by the Galatas, and giving him an opportunity, it's not in his affidavit, but to be able to respond. It is a confirmatory affidavit of one of the family members who is alleging that Mr. Cele might know something about the disappearance of their father, but he is withholding the information. They are also alleging that Mr. Cele could have done something because they was very close to their father. Mr. Cele, without knowing of this affidavit, had already mentioned the pain he feels about the death, the disappearance of Mr. Pewa. So I would like to give Mr. Cele an opportunity to talk to these issues that are contained in our record, which he was not aware of and we have
Yes.
not brought to his attention. Is that okay? Thank you.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chair. May you continue, Mr. Cele, on
Maybe you may start by reading the allegation by the person who says General Cele might know about the disappearance of the next of kin. That would be better for the record.
I will do so, Commissioner. As I had indicated, the allegation begins at paragraph 16 of this affidavit, and it's page 1006 and 67 of Tsalata Papers. Post the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In 2002, my aunt Zama Pewa submitted an application on my behalf to the Department of Finance so that I could benefit from my father's special pension. My aunt had to submit supporting documents, which included my father's certificate of service and a biography that was authored by my father's close ally, Bheki Cele. In the biography, Cele stated that he made inquiries after my father disappeared, and he heard that my father left for exile in Uganda or Nigeria. This depiction never sat well with our family. We knew that my father never had any intention to go into exile. We were highly suspicious of this claim. We suspect that Cele knows more about my father's disappearance, but he is not disclosing information. And given the fact that my father was closely involved with comrades who climbed the ranks within the ANC, like Bheki Cele, Mvusi Ngubo, and Zimba Ngubente, we remained hopeful that when the ANC government came into power, time and resources would be allocated to find out what happened to my father. This turned out not to be the case. And then again, on the family's attempt to uncover the truth, Vusi Gama, the uncle of the deponent, who is the son of Mr. Pewa, who disappeared, says on affidavit that on 13 August 2008, my uncle wrote to Bheki Cele, who was the MEC for transport in KwaZulu-Natal at the time, to request his assistance in establishing the truth about my father's disappearance. Then a copy of that is attached. My uncle was under the impression that Bheki Cele would come to the family's aid because of the close relationship that he had with my father. Cele had political influence, and we were hopeful that he would use his high standing in the government and the ANC to help us to get to the truth. Cele never responded to my uncle's emails, and we took this to mean that he did not have any interest in solving my father's disappearance. Can you comment?
No, thanks,
And
Commissioner.
sort of just before you comment, it is bundle 9 of the Tsalata Papers. Sorry, Commissioners.
Can I go?
Yes, you may continue.
No, thanks, Commissioners. You know, people that don't know wounds that we go around with, bleeding and painful. Besides losing comrades, many of them we lost. They were friends. Beyond being comrades, some people were friends that you grew up. There are quite few names. Pilandwandwe is one of those names, who was abducted and killed, and his grave was at Katorich. She left, and fortunately I found her in the camps, training in Angola. One guy is Lulu Gasa from Hammersdale. We were too close. I remember when we were trimming, when we were carrying company machines, guns in the camp, we say, what's wrong if we march straight home like this? We were just friends and trimming. And Lulu died with a petritive 9. Petritive 9. All those kids came from Durban, Lamontville, that 9, Lamontville. I knew them all of them, without fail. In my talks, not just here this morning, whenever I talk about those people I lost, Spo is one of those people that I forever mention. Spo is a name that we say Pewa. We call him Spo. Wherever is one person that I lost. Now it hurts me to hear this kind of affidavit. It really hurts me. It does hurt me, big time.
So are you saying that what is in that affidavit is inaccurate?
Absolutely, big time,
Mr. Cele, have you ever authored a biography
big time. The,
of Mr. Pewa?
just before that, I was 19. Spo, I think, got lost in about 87.
Yes.
I think I was between exile and prison. I can't remember. I think I was arrested somewhere in 1987. So my take when I asked Spo, I was told that he went to exile and disappeared. I think that's a statement I made here this morning, and I did not know about this affidavit. So all my life, what I know is that Spo went to exile, did not reach exile, but it disappeared. So I hear that he was kidnapped and by these 3 people and all that. For me, that's a new information. There was a body, I can't remember who led it, that was doing confirmation of the comrades that would have come up front and say they've lost their relatives, they've lost their people in the execution of the struggle. Those names had to be affirmed because many people, the real people who don't know, you never heard of them, they would come forward, especially with the reparations, especially with that. And then surely Lamontville, where I grew, people would have asked if I know Spo. I would say yes, I know him very well, worked with him. Though these people he is mentioning, Ngubo and Zimba, were young people behind us. So he's not mentioning the real people I work with, Jabus Tole, Baba Dlamini, Lechisa, Angel and all. They were youth, but little bit behind us. But knowing him, I knew him even beyond because he was a next door. He was just two houses away from the houses from the house where I grew up in Lamontville. For the kind of thing to say I know more about what happened to Spo, as if I was people that would have been briefed me about knowing more would be the special branch that it ended with. So I take that with a lot of pain to say there is somebody somewhere that thinks special branch would have briefed me about Spo. Biography. I don't know what kind of biography that you're talking about is, whether it's a book or what, but I've not written my own biography. I intend to write about it. I intend to write about it, but I haven't. So I haven't written any biography about anybody. Maybe if somebody would have asked a question to say, you know so and so, if I know so and so, I know. Actually, there are many people that people have asked me, especially with this affirmation, so that they can get reparations and taken forward and all that, and put in the database and all that database. So I would, but
You mean reparations for the TRC?
yes, yes. So I really don't want to take this one. It disturbs me And
Do you understand it if they say you probably know more or you know more? Do you understand it to the statement to be saying you did not disclose what you know? And so they would want you to disclose. Is it how you understand it?
Chairperson, I understand it in a negative way. To say they expect me to have known more, and they don't take they negatively take my understanding to say I thought he was in exile and disappeared. So they say he was abducted, never intended to go to exile. I don't know. I left to exile far before him. By 87, I was back operating in the country, going to prison and all that. So I would not know but my information, when I asked where is Bo, I was told he left for exile, but never reached exile, never. So it's the first time I hear today that was abducted by those 3 guys and was killed and all that. So it's my pain, Judge Homo, comes, maybe I have a wrong understanding. My understanding seems like I have some collaboration in understanding with the people that adopted and killed Spo. And those will be the special branch guys. I know about Kupega girl, who was from Wamashu that we worked with and all. I guess herself was killed and all that, working with. So for me, that will really, really hurt me to such an extent that maybe it will be good one day to go to the family of Spo if they're still there. I still go to Lamontville, but I spend time visiting people that I grew up when there are nice things happening in the township. But I did not know that there is such an issue. If I knew that there is such an issue, I would have really availed myself to the family to take the matters through. But the inaccuracies there are not just big, are also painful.
Do you remember receiving an email from Vusigama when you were in MEC for Agriculture?
I don't think I know Vusigama. I don't think I know Vusigama, but it does not mean I can't receive an email from you if I don't know you. But if I know Vusigama, it would have been easy to remember the email. I can't deny it. You know, there is, I don't know which year that would be. I don't know which that year would be.
In 2023. In 2023, Vusigama writes to you. No, in fact, on the 13th of August 2008, commissioners, this is page 1014 of bundle 9. And Vusi writes to you, Mustegama writes to you and says, "Dear Honorable MEC Cele, today I unintentionally went
Which
to..."
year? Sorry, which year is that?
It's 2008
Okay.
in August. And he says, "Dear Honorable MEC Cele, today I unintentionally went through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of South Africa report. The name of Spo Mosapewa from Lamontville is written amongst the list of the victims. Spo is a father to my only nephew, Mbuso. When Spo decided to exile, Mbuso was still in his mother's womb. The mysterious circumstances under which Spo died are a painful story that has turned Mbuso into a victim. Mbuso is a victim because he does not know how and where his father died. Zama, a sister to Spo, and my sister have tried to find closure to the matter, but lately they are running out of steam. It is because there seems to be no progress regarding the investigations. I therefore humbly appeal to the MEC for assistance to discover what happened to my brother-in-law. Seemingly, time is not on our side. Each time Bo's son asks for financial assistance from me, I always wish his father was here. He is even battling to get funds so that he can further his education at a tertiary level. South Africa is a free country today, but some sons and daughters of the people who struggled and sacrificed with their lives are feeling the pain of growing fatherless and suffering from financial muscle. Therefore, pain and tears is their story. I'm requesting for assistance from the MEC because of your will to assist when you can. May Sbo rest in peace.
Yes, can I address myself, say, first to Mr. Soni? I'm not so sure how this escaped you. It seems that I'm glad that the general is prepared to answer, but it seems to me it's a bit of an ambush, that he did not get this type of information in the Rule 3.3 notice, so that he can prepare himself thoroughly. I might be mistaken, Mr. Soni. What happened?
Commissioners, I understand the position. We were informed.
The other microphone is not on, is it?
Oh,
Yes, yes.
sorry. We were informed this morning by Mr. Barney about the existence of this information in the Kalata affidavit. And Ms. Seme, in order to deal with all matters concerning Mr. Kele, then raised it with Mr. Kele, as I understand it, at lunchtime. Now, you're absolutely right, Judge Como, that at the end of the day, it is an ambush.
If I may, just to correct the circumstances, it definitely isn't an ambush, Mr. Homo.
Yes.
I canvassed this issue with Mr. Cele properly, and it was only after I had satisfied myself that Mr. Cele is comfortable and, in fact, wants to address this properly that I'm now raising it with. I was quite aware of the circumstance of ambush, but the pain he felt he could not even leave it to a later stage, and that's why he wants to address it now. Thank you, Mr. Homodo, for raising that.
Yes, because that at least allays my worry.
Thank
Speaking
you.
for myself.
Thank you. No, just to place it on record, during lunchtime, I spent quite a bit of time, and you will recall that Mr. Cele, I had consulted with Mr. Cele. He's very much familiar with the issue of SPO and PEWA, so it's not the first time. He himself raised it when I was leading his evidence, that it is
Yes.
one of those things, so,
Yes.
and he's familiar about the
I think
issues.
he had raised the name of Pewa in his evidence before we adjourned for lunch.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Cele. Does that accord with your recollection and how you've dealt with the issues?
No, surely I don't feel ambushed on the matter.
Thank you, General.
No, I don't feel ambushed, but I feel sad. But he can go forward. I have suggested that if I need to see the family or whoever asks, but the last reading, I don't remember per se receiving that. That would be 2008.
And 8, yes.
I don't remember. I'm not denying it, but I'm surely nothing raises the name
Gamma.
Vusgama as a person, but which means I received it. Surely I would have taken to those people that were dealing with these matters, because it was not within my capacity to investigate these things. There were bodies that were some churches that will, and some people. I remember there's this, I forget his name now, who was taking our CVs, and he's fortunately still there. We go to gym with him even now. Who was responsible for for taking our names so that we can go to the database of the people that were in struggling. I'm sure those are people that I would have spoken, because it was not my purview, it was not in my hands to pursue those matters. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cele, and thank you for your evidence. I would like to take you to the last paragraph of your affidavit, but before doing so, I assure you that the Commission takes cognizance of your pain. We understand that this is a very painful process, particularly for people who really worked hard for the liberation of this country, and that this isn't just a run-of-the-mill issue, but that it does raise wounds. And for that, we apologize and thank you for your participation in the liberation of the country. Can you please read the last paragraph of your...
You see the conclusion now?
Yes.
Okay.
May you please read the last paragraph of your affidavit?
Well, there can never be a justification or excuse for any failure to investigate or prosecute TRC cases. I place before this Commission the nuisance involved and argue that this is not a matter where issues are black and white and only about constitutional obligations and legislation. The issues are about real people and their histories, and how, in my case, as Begowake Cele navigated his biographical experiences and also tried to fulfill his constitutional obligation in a democratic South Africa with leaders and opponents who had a past in the brutality of the system we lived in called apartheid.
Thank you, Mr. Cele. Commissioners, I'm concluding my examination in chief.
Thank you, Ms. Seme. Ms. Moroka?
Ms. Seme, switch off your microphones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just one small question, Mr. Cele. Chair, just to place my junior on record,
Yes.
her name is Anissa Kesere.
Anissa
Kesere.
Desiree
K-E.
K-E.
Kesere.
Kesari. Thank you.
For the Minister and the Department. Tate Cele, you were asked a question by the Chair apropos the issue of capacity and what you did. And you were trying to explain, part of it was, the answer was that it was not in your purview, but you tried to increase the number of investigators for the Hawks. Can I refer you to page 23, it's BC, I think BC 2, of your annexures.
Page 23.
Yes, it's the second last page of BC2. You give an answer there that I'd love if you could read it into the record. And it will start with, Cele had previously given Parliament an undertaking. And more specifically, the second paragraph thereof, because it answers the question that the Chair had asked you.
Can you repeat page?
Page 20, it's BC2, page 23. And it's the second last.
I think it's 2054. Typed page 2054.
We don't have it as such, Chair.
Yes. Mr. Cele might have it as such.
Thank you, Chair.
205.
It's an annexure to your affidavit.
Yes, 2054. Yes. I'm there.
And
on PC2.
and it is really an answer that you didn't give to the question that you were asked. I just wanted you to then place it in
Chair
record.
can repeat so that
The question was from the Chair and I think from the co-commissioner about what it is that you did in respect of capacitating the Hawks. And this is a newspaper report that seeks to say what you did. And I wanted to find out whether this would be the correct statement of fact. More specifically, if you see, it says Cele had previously given Parliament an undertaking that investigations arising out of the TRC in terms of the promotion of national unity and reconciliation were receiving the attention of the Hawks. I wanted to draw you to the paragraph that talks to that as an answer to the chair, whether that's a correct answer or not.
I think it's correct because there were cases that were investigated by Hawks. And if I go to Parliament, I would have gone with the head of Hawks, but I would have been briefed with the report there to put there. So
The second paragraph, that talks to the investigators, because I think we're here really concerned with investigations and the capacity that was there within the Hawks.
Cele had previously given Parliament an undertaking that investigations arising out of TRC in terms of promotion of the Act were receiving the attention on the Hawks.
Not the second paragraph, Mr. Ndadekele.
The second paragraph from,
Yeah,
from the
that
top.
starts with the Hawks have since.
The paragraph that
That
follows
comes thereafter.
Or they start with Cele. No, start with
No.
the Hawks. The Hawks
The
have
next-
since
Yes.
Hawks have since hired investigators on a 3-year contract basis, and 34 of these investigators have specifically assigned to investigate these TRC cases. As I have said, that there were investigations. I think that those investigations are still there. The major thing here was the capacity. And what I said to say, I did not, my mentality and my pain of doing this thing could not have made me not to respect the law. That's what I was saying. Finally, with all what I have with these people that are both and them, but this should have happened. And as I'm saying, but the capacity was never, and I don't think is enough, and I don't think is about to be enough, including for this and any other things.
Thank you, sir.
So, do we know what year this would have happened? Was it before or after the World Cup?
If I may, Commissioner, the report is the 17th of April 2023.
I was a minister. So then I was initially commissioned the World Cup. So 2018 I came as a minister after appointing the head of Hawks.
Where do you get that?
The bottom it's page 2, but it's just before BC3, right?
Yes, 14th of October.
17th of April, Chair.
17th of April, 2023.
I'm a bit confused because the byline under the headline says published 3 years ago.
It is, at the top, it is printed 2026, but right at the bottom, it is 2023. When he was still minister, he was not minister in 2026.
Thank you, Ms. Moroka. Mr. Kwala.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good afternoon, General. I just have.
I can't see who's talking. Okay.
I'm here, General. Just before I address myself to the General Commissioners, may I also take the opportunity to introduce into the record my colleague, Mr. Lukele.
Lukele.
Yes, he has been part of the hearings, but never physically appeared before you.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Welcome, Mr. Lukele and Ms. Kesri.
General, the few things I just want clarity on. You testified about two periods, the period you were the minister and the period you were the commissioner, national commissioner. Now, the reluctance to pay the legal fees that you spoke about occurred during which period? Is it limited to the period you were the minister, or it also relates to the period when you were the national commissioner?
I think when I was a minister.
Okay. Was it in... Let me put the question differently. Was your reluctance to pay the legal fees contemplated to interfere with the investigation of the TRC cases? Was it your intention to interfere with the TRC investigation when you were reluctant to pay the legal fees?
No, I think I've answered the thing. That my qualms and my reluctance was my mental issues, but there was a law, there was a decision of the court to say you'll pay. Maybe that's why at the end of the day there were investigations. And I would have gone to the legal ways of, rather than sitting down. It was not. The law, I wanted to continue, not to interfere with the law, but I wanted those people to continue with their own steam.
Yeah. So the way I must understand it is that it happened, but you never intended, or it was not your intention to interfere with the investigations.
All right. Chairperson, I've said time and again that even now I'll wish to know more about what happened to those people I know.
Yes. And if you had known now, if you had known then what you know now, you would not have you would not have done what you did.
No, it has not changed my feeling that they should pay. As I was feeling the same that time, but we continued with the legal call. Even then, I did not want to interfere. But my issue was that why are they having comfort then and having comfort now? So not that they should not account for. Interfering and getting to know is always in my mind. Because as I've said, we have lost too many people on the way. We'd love to know what happened to them.
Okay. Lastly, General, also you spoke about the focus that the police had to the FIFA World Cup. You remember that story?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Must I also understand that part of your evidence in the following sense, that whilst you were focusing on the FIFA World Cup, it was not your intention, or was it, to interfere with the investigation?
Not at all. That it could be. Hence, I said all other units continued. There is no unit that was stopped to do its work that was supposed to do. And I guess that the head of Hawks then, Anwar Tramat, could give evidence so that nobody ever said, stop, don't do with these issues, that they fall in the purview of Hawks.
Okay. Would it then be correct to understand, in summary, of what you have testified about that, be it the legal fees, be it the focus to the FIFA World Cup, be it the under-resource to the SAPS, none of those were intended to interfere, and they may have had the unintended consequences?
Well, it is so, but no decision would have been taken to interfere with that.
But
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gwala, all those things that you're asking are set out in the judgment of Judge Cynthia Pretorius that was given on the 15th of May 2018.
Yes, I just had to deal with the evidence that is before you now. That's all I was trying to do. And I'm done. Thank you very much, sir.
And Mr. Gwala, by the time these former security officers were being prosecuted, the investigation was long over. And do you agree with me, former minister, that the delay in paying for the fees of those former security branch members meant that the prosecution could not continue in that period?
No, I do not agree with that. From the side of the police, I don't think there was a time when they could not be investigated.
Now I'm dealing with the prosecution. Investigations first, then prosecution.
Well, I don't think I can answer on prosecution side. I don't think I'm qualified to answer prosecutors and those that are prosecuting, because even my work would end up with investigation. Even now, I know that they investigate and they take it somewhere for further prosecution.
So the article you attach to your affidavit says that former members of the security branch were in the dock as accused for their apartheid-era crimes. They applied for legal funding from the state. You did not initially comply with that order, which led to delays in the prosecution, in the criminal trial of those security branch officers.
That's what the article says.
Yes.
Well, I don't know, maybe the prosecution could answer, because I think that is set by maybe the
Me
prosecution.
to assist. So the people who needed to be prosecuted, so the investigation is now complete. People need to be prosecuted. They are former members of the security branch. They make application to the applications to the police. So obviously the National Commissioner will deal with that and send it to you. So you do agree that whilst they are making this application, their prosecution is not going ahead, because they are not funded, their legal costs are not paid. You agree with me? Yes. So if you agree with me that whilst their applications are pending, and in your office there is this delay, because obviously in your heart you are contemplating, why must I pay for this? You do eventually do it. But during that period, there is a delay in the prosecution of these security branch. Yes, that you can speak into the record.
No, I hear that. I
Yes,
agree.
yes. Okay,
And you
thank
accept that during that delay, the families of the COSAS 4 were denied or had to wait that much longer to get justice for the loss of their loved ones.
Yeah, maybe the second statement, because the initial one said they were denied. I don't think they were denied. I think they were delayed.
They were delayed.
Yeah.
Ms. Rantu?
Thank you, Commissioners. Good afternoon, General. Just one question that I want to clarify. The decision that was taken regarding the provision of legal assistance to the former SAPS members that were about to be prosecuted, at what level was that decision taken? At ministerial level or at national commissioners level? I'm trying to understand from your evidence.
I think it was taken at the government level. And whether it was a presidential proclamation, I guess, or was ever the decision. But for it to investigate it would be taken at the level of the National Commissioner.
Okay.
The Minister of Police can't say investigate or not. Will listen what the National Commissioner or the head of the Hawks are saying, but it can't be Minister saying please investigate or please don't investigate.
Maybe to assist
If I
Mr.
may,
Tle-
sorry, Ms.
If I may.
Seme. I want to contextualize my question because I'm asking this against the background of the National Instruction 1 of 2017, the one that deals with the procedure to be followed for legal provision of members that are faced with criminal liability. And that is what I'm trying to understand from the general. Was it the National Commissioner that decided on that or the Minister? I know the Minister said it was I, but I'm trying to understand, was that in terms of vicarious responsibility as the Minister, or it was taken by the Minister himself
What to prosecute
to grant them or to refuse them fees?
the commissioner would take a decision of operations, might come to the minister for the funding to say this would be the funding. For instance, other operations would not have the original funding. We'll have to get it somewhere because it comes as you go on with life. For instance, operations of COVID could not have been budgeted for. So this one would come, but not all the time. For instance, the minister sitting here, many a times, commissioners, you read on the paper that the minister has paid 8 million for litigation. That's something that you have never heard of it before. Never. You call the commission and say, what is this? Say, no. Sometimes they have already paid that litigation, don't know. So it's not all the time that commissioner, and I cannot go back and ask the commissioner, why did you do it? So long as operational and all that kind of thing. And the final decision of investigation of whatever is the national commissioner issue, not the minister.
Okay, maybe just to make myself clearer, General, my question relates to the article that, or a copy of the article that is annexed to your affidavit about the refusal to give or to provide for legal fees of those that were facing prosecution. That's now former members of the SAPS. Now,
If I may just assist, Mr. Tle- around the issue
Please
of...
switch on both microphones.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
The question that is being asked by my colleague is the decision to refuse to pay for the legal services of former members of the security branch. That decision which you say you were uncomfortable with, but you eventually went along with it, which is documented in this article, and it appears in your affidavit. My colleague is asking you who made that decision or what are the processes. And she says she's asking this against the backdrop of a national circular of the police about decisions relating to security or to the payment of legal fees for members of the security, of the police rather. How did that decision come about?
Maybe, Commissioner, the word refusal. Maybe the word refusal, because you can't say I'm phony, I'm refusing. But it doesn't mean you can't scrutinize things that are brought to you until you are satisfied that this is correct. As I said, there are many other things, and you say, you go into this, you go into this. Case in hand, lots of things that we have done, almost a similar way would be Marikana. You go into this, you go into this, until you are satisfied. So, for me, maybe it's what I raised with one commissioner, that maybe is not a denial, is a delay, because you need to be satisfied. You need to apply your mind. So when you apply your mind as an executive, you don't know everything. You are advised by your legal people, by all that kind of thing. So it will be a presentation of the National Commissioner stroke to say there is this, and you say ask this, and you say do this and all until you're satisfied, and then it continues as it finally did continue. But it's not just on every morning you sign everything that is on your desk without really applying your mind.
Thank you, Commissioners. There aren't any questions.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Ranto.
Ms. Ranto, can I just ask a question from you? That circular, was that after the judgment?
Commissioner, it's National Instruction 1 of 2017.
2017?
Yes.
So it's after.
Yes, and I must just correct myself. The judgment was given on the 5th of June 2018 and not on the 15th May 2018. That's when it was heard.
Yeah.
If I can just make that correction, please.
Thank you. Ms. Ntambeleni?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Minister. Maybe just one question from my side. You testified earlier about delays that emanated from care which was directed towards the FIFA World Cup in 2010. If one is to look at the importance that is placed on TRC matters, as well as the care that was given to the World Cup itself, just maybe if you can help us here, how important was it that South Africa would host the World Cup in 2010?
Thanks, Commissioner. I don't mind called a former minister because I don't want to rule from the grave as a minister. So I wouldn't mind to be called former minister or general because that's permanent. When you are given to oversee the government, the president, there would be things that are priority than others in that particular time. I think health will be priority when there is a COVID. When the police we have units, there are things that happens maybe periodical and all, and they call your attention. One of those things would be a thing called cash heist. And where the resources must concentrate, one of those things is a GPV and femicide. That it will call, in many ways, it will call you to increase the, I'm sure you're aware that there is a unit, FSS, that deals with it, increase their swaps, increase that, and all that kind of thing. And then there will be World Cup. That is threatened because South Africa is a criminal paradise, or is a crime paradise. Then you'll prioritize that. But that does not mean that at that particular time, those other things must stop. Then you will come back, and I guess these 34 editions were stolen from somewhere to say, let's move this 34 to this priority that we have agreed in Parliament to happen. So periodically, there'll be thing that comes, and I'm sure these investigators were taken from other environments, not because they did not need them, because it was accepted that 34 of them can help if they go there. So that would be my explanation. It's not just a flat move. Sometimes the conditions drive the particular action within the organization that you go. But it never comes where you say, we're not investigating Kashas, we're not investigating the truth and recording, we're not investigating the... but as I said, that periodically there are those that they come a little bit higher than others.
Thank you. Apologies, I did say one question, but from your question, from their answer, further questions are then probed. Am I understanding you correctly to say the importance of ensuring the safety of the countries that we would then host meant that we do split resources, and that possibly says to me that TRC matters were given their own attention, but to a certain extent of ensuring the safety of the nations that were then coming into our country, we had to divert a little bit of some level of importance there.
Yes, again, it was not just the Department of Police that would decide that. World Cup was a government decision. So, as I've said, they've given a little bit extra resources for that and all. And this is a project, do it proper, and then concentrate on it. But there is nowhere say, don't do these other things. Continue to do this. They might be on the same speed that you have been doing them all the time. But because there is this one that is pitched up, everybody will think that the policing in South Africa now is a World Cup. Well, you see, 2 days before World Cup, before the match, we were in that stadium, Kalapash. We were doing some exercises there, and in Soweto there was a cash heist on the day. So we had to move, take the helicopter on that dry run to run and do those things. So it never stopped. That other things will stop, but maybe at a certain given time, pitched up. And these 34 investigators given is a form of pitching up. I'm sure with better resources, there would have been more.
Thank you. And with that now said, what contribution, extent of contribution?
Can you count?
Pardon?
Can you count? You said one question, then second question, now the third.
Apologies, Commissioner, I did apologize that further questions were probed from the initial answer given. With that said,
And it also seems that it's the same question asked differently. I'm not so sure where we're getting to.
apologies, Commissioner Komo. With that said, what contribution did the World Cup generally provide to the country in general?
Well, economists can tell us that.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Ms. Rokotso.
But from the side of safety, there was a big safety during that World Cup. But in terms of economy, I'm sure economists can tell us what were the outcomes.
Thank you, Chair. I had questions, but I think Mr. Cele has answered them in my colleague's questions, so I'm not going to be asking further.
Thank you.
Mr. Former Minister, I'm not sure what to say. Mr. Cele, there's been a lot of attention about the World Cup and then the provision subsequently of the dedicated 34 additional investigators. You will recall that the Promotion of National Unity and Reconciliation Act was passed in 1995. And that was part of the negotiated settlement in this country. And that made provision for the Amnesty Committee, its hearings, and the whole country watched that unfold. and the report of the TRC was produced in 2003. So that's some way before the 2010 World Cup. So one of the issues that we're probing is, at least from 2003, what happened with the investigation and the prosecution of these cases. Now, your involvement, as I understand it, only starts in about 2009.
Yes.
Okay. And so you're able to speak to the period 2009 to 2024.
Yes, 2009 and 2020.
Okay,
2009 and to 2011, and then 2018 to 24.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vani?
Chairperson, we thought we might be able to simply pose questions for clarification, but given the evidence, we would like to put certain documents dealing with the tenure of Mr. Tsele as National Commissioner, and then secondly, as Minister. He wouldn't have seen these documents, and we don't wish to ambush him, so with your leave, we would like to apply to cross-examine.
Yes. When do you intend to bring that application, Mr. Vani? If I may press you on that one.
Yes, Chairperson, you may. It's a legitimate question indeed. We will bring it before the end of this week.
Yes. Okay.
As the Chairperson pleases.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kele,
Yes, Chairperson.
we thank you for having come today to give your evidence before this commission. Your evidence has not become concluded, as there is an application to to cross-examine you further by Mr. Howard Vani. So you will be required to come back to this commission for that cross-examination. So for now, you are excused as a witness. I see it doesn't sit well.
No, Chairperson, I can't defy Commission calling me, but I would love the process to appreciate that we have other processes too.
Yes.
We have other work to do. It's very difficult to find time. And this one was not negotiated with me. I was told that it's Tuesday, and I'm here. Because really, that one is retired, it doesn't mean that there is not a lot of work, especially with the political situation that is there. That one is very much involved. I remain the member of the National Executive Committee. I am remaining the member of the task teams that deals with elections and all that kind of thing. As I'm here today, I had to postpone the meeting of the branches and all that I was supposed to address. So one doesn't have much time, but we can negotiate the time. Maybe if it is so told to, within time, and you see what day.
Yes.
But I'll never defy to come back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Miss Sime will try and liaise with you on an appropriate date that will be convenient to you for your cross-examination.
Okay. Including after the 4th of November.
You are stretching it too far.
Okay. No, thanks. We'll negotiate with Ms. Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
These proceedings are adjourned until tomorrow at 10 o'clock.